Help. There's too much Daniel Mallory Ortberg is online weekly to chat live with readers. Harrison edited Q. Parents problematic. A. You are not violating your parents' rights to constantly absorb racist videos on Facebook. Go ahead and unsub Q. Gambling. I was talking about it later with some friends when one of the girls chirped that I needed to be more compassionate to my brother, since gambling addiction was a disease and he was sick. And I wasn't allowed. It's possible that at some point during this argument, the best thing you could have said was I don't think we're going to agree about this, and I am not comfortable arguing about my private relationship with my brother anymore. Let's talk about Q. Parents problem. Yeah, I don't really go for using the language of autonomy about something like the right to look at racist videos about imaginary crimes committed by non-existent black people when you log into Facebook. I think it's fine to Q. Reluctant quitter. I am the most junior analyst at a job where the team lead has been known to make people quit, cry, and break out into random cursing fits. You can take as many. The longest I have quit for is 3 months. And to be honest, I relate profoundly to this. Whenever Eve quits, that's not to say, by the way, that if you were to quit your job and find a better one, or if you had some difficult conversations with your partner about what you need from one another, or if you cut your in-laws out of your life, that you'd suddenly be free of the urge to smoke. Smoking is still Q. My parents I certainly think anything that affects most of your weekends in a given year is worth addressing directly. I wonder if that said, you still have to figure out what to do when you are there, and I want to help you find a balance between honoring your parents' wishes even when they don't dovetail with your own priorities, and even when those wishes are slightly inconsistent with the sleeping arrangements of the past, and establishing yourself as an adult in a long-term, committed relationship. I think it's best, Q. Do I have a stalker? My birthday was 2 months ago, and he sent me a gift, even though we hadn't had any contact in 4 months. It wasn't smart. I worry you might not like this perspective, but I think you need to talk to your husband about this. The two of you were in. I imagine the temptation right now is to say, look, I got away with it for a whole year, and now I'd never even dream of seeing Bob again. I finally understand. Q. Office peep show. Some of this is just the problem of urban living. You have tons of Q. Tattoo privacy. It is not rude. It is never rude to Q. My parents I don't think this is the first approach the original poster is going to want to try, if only because they seem to otherwise really enjoy their relationship with their parents and are generally okay with some compromise on the sleeping together at their parents' house rule. Obviously other Q. My parents oh, that's interesting. Yes, if that related video the biggest life lessons parents hope to teach their kids provided by BUZZ60.
Raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park,